This is conversation number 2 between Karin Jironet and myself. And in this conversation, Karin and I will focus on methods used in Sufism and Jungian psychology to advance one toward the goals of self-realization and individuation, respectively. We wonder together how the two methodologies might relate to one another. The spirituality of the East has an immensely long tradition to support its contemporary methods and teachings. Jungian psychology, on the other hand, a product of the Western modern mind, is relatively new, but it uses methods that are familiar in ancient traditions. Karin is an experienced practitioner and teacher of Sufi methods, and she will speak first.
Oh, thank you, Murray. I would like to start by saying that in our previous counterpoint, we talked about the gradual process, stages of individuation and self-realization. So it's the next question is, of course, how? What is the method? And when it comes to Hazrat Inayat Khan, so the famous musician and mystic from India who came to the West in 1910, what methods would he prescribe? And among the most fundamental ones is the practice of purification. And the reason for that is that he concludes that everything is what it is. So water is water, earth is earth, and your soul, yourself, is your soul and yourself. Everything that's added to that can contaminate the product, yourself and the water and whatever. And by purifying yourself from what's not you, you come towards you yourself, which is a step on the path of self-realization. In practical terms, this sort of unlearning of lessons learned in the course of a life in order to come to your core and essence. Purification can take many different forms. One is by water, for instance. So here is a glass of water, but not all waters are the same. They have different effects on you. In Italy, where I live partly, I have attended more than one conversation at the bar, funny enough, among women talking about what's the best water, because they have a huge catalog of different waters with different minerals that has different effects on you. How purifying is the water? What works for you? In London, for instance, I hear there is, you can come to a place where you can taste water tasting, where you can taste waters from many different geographies. And you will experience the impact on yourself. Is this cleansing or not? To become more and more aware of what suits you, what helps you to feel more liberated from things that doesn't sit well with you, you need to learn discernment. It's a way in which the concentration we earlier talked about has a place. You can concentrate on the discernment of the water in this case. Another form of purification, which I consider the most powerful form of purification, is the breathing practice. So the purification breath practice is oftentimes done in the morning with fresh air, if possible. And as in India, the prana, which is in the air, can enter your system and the different faculties and cavities of your body and purify not only the mind, but also the body. The breathing practice is no doubt a must for purification of mental purification, physical purification, and spiritual revival, vitalization. Prana is life force. And you have, if you inhale and exhale that with the conscious mind, it has a different effect on you than just breathing away, for sure. The ultimate purifier is the heart and love, of course. Love washes away premature judgment, a lack of compassion, as you mentioned last time, Murray, and leaves a sense of freedom for the soul to express itself. The soul is love. And when you come to the point that it flows freely, like water, everything flows freely for you. So this inner work is not a separate activity. It's something that's integrated in daily life and in which you participate in your way in daily life as well. So thank you for the opportunity to say a little bit about that. Murray Stein, who is, as everyone knows, the foremost Jungian psychoanalyst in Zurich, who has written numerous books that's influenced and informed Jungian psychoanalysis worldwide for decades, and who has lately also written a play with Henri Abramovich, the latest one called The Twilight at Bollingen. Thank you, Murray, for everything.
Oh, thank you, Karin. You know, you and I have worked together quite a number of times with groups. You've brought some to Zurich. We did some in Berlin and other places, interesting places in the world. And I can testify that when you lead a group, it has a very powerful effect because I think because of what you learned from your Sufi practices. There is a kind of presence, a centering, and the breathing. I think the breathing is really something that Jungian institutes could incorporate into their training programs as a part of Jungian psychoanalysis. Definitely. It has such a profound effect on the spirit. It centers, it brings you into the moment. It pushes away all the distractions and allows you to concentrate and really be present. And I've seen this work in groups with you, Karin, and the group members have been, deeply affected and transformed as a result of these group experiences that you lead. So I want to speak about some methods that are used in Jungian work and Jungian psychoanalysis to foster and become conscious of the individuation process. As I said, individuation is a natural process according to Jung. The self wants to become conscious. The self, you're born with the self, it's in the unconscious, and in the course of life, it makes itself known and its presence felt in many different ways that we can talk about. And in Jungian psychoanalysis, we try to become conscious of what is the self showing us, what is it wanting, what is its movement, what is its direction. And this can result in big changes in life. People change their vocations, people change their life directions, they change their life partners because they get a deep sense that they're not on the path that they're meant to be. So this, what are you meant to be doing in your life is the question for individuation. What does the self want, not the ego? The ego is looking around at opportunities, has to adjust and adapt to the world, has to take care of all kinds of stuff. But what does this deeper self want? Well, how do we work with that? How do we go about trying to discover what the self wants? There are three fundamental methods or pillars of Jungian psychoanalysis, as I call them. I wrote a book called Four Pillars of Jungian Psychoanalysis some couple of years ago. And these three pillars are dream work, active imagination, and relationship in depth. I just say a few words about each one. You know, we could have many sessions on each, but this is just going to be introductory to what we do in the work in Jungian psychoanalysis to engage with and work with the individuation process that's wanting to take place in our lives. Working with dreams is fundamental to Jungian psychoanalysis, has been from the beginning, since Jung even when Jung was with Freud, he discovered the value of dreams from reading Freud's book, The Interpretation of Dreams. And he applied the Freud's methods for a while, and then developed his own methods to interpret dreams and discover their significance for our conscious life. What do the dreams say about how we're living our lives? And Jung has a basic theory about the relation of dreams to conscious life that he calls compensation, which means that we get from our dreams what our consciousness needs to become more complete and more whole. So by observing dreams, working with dreams in analysis, we are expanding consciousness, delving into the areas of the shadow, because the shadow is often featured in dreams and dream figures. You find yourself and your shadow in your dreams. You often, in daily life, you think they're outside yourself in the neighbor or another country or something, a different culture, but in your dreams, you can't get away with that. It's part of you. So you discover that foreign territory in yourself, in your dreams, and you discover a lot of other things about yourself and about the unconscious through working with your dreams. So dream work is fundamental method. And second, what Jung called active imagination. And I think this, I don't know how much value the Sufi place on dreams and dream work. I'll ask Karin in our conversation in a moment about that, but in Jungian work, it's fundamental. Secondly, active imagination. I think imagination would be probably something that you would find more parallels in Sufi practice to this practice. It's the Jungian form of meditation, basically, that you take a dream image or an image that comes to you or in a vision or in a fantasy, and you work with it actively. And there is a procedure for doing this. And by doing this type of meditation, you build out a sense of your inner life and your inner world, using the symbols that come to you from the unconscious in dreams or in waking experiences. Sometimes you have a flash or an inspiration or an intuition. You focus on that. As Karin talked about, focusing, concentrating on that image, and then working with it actively. active imagination is a practice that involves engaging the ego with the unconscious and building a strong bridge between consciousness and the unconscious. Jung called that the transcendent function, building that bridge that you use then in your daily life, as we will speak about in a future session. And then there is the relationship in depth. In my field, and Karin's also, she's a psychoanalyst, a Jungian, we speak about transference and countertransference in analysis. And when Jung speaks about transference, he's not speaking about something superficial like the analyst is my papa or my mama. There is that. There can be that level also. And that's important when it happens. It's on a personal level. But there's what he called the archetypal transference. And that is when a deeper level of the unconscious is engaged in the relationship. So I call this relationship in depth, when the unconscious of the client engages with the unconscious of the therapist, the analyst, a process emerges that creates something new in both of them, and a new resource, a new access to the self for both of them. Jung writes about this in his famous essay, The Psychology of the Transference. So it's this combination of working with dreams, active imagination, and in the transference situation, in analysis, that Jungians engage in facilitating the process of individuation. These are the methods we use. Just one other thing I wanted to say as I was listening to Karin talking about purification. In the psychoanalytic work, there is analysis. Analysis is this kind of separation. You analyze your consciousness and your identifications, your projections. And this is a part of purification. You're purifying ego consciousness of its contaminations by introjecting the world around and projecting onto the world around, and you're separating the individual from all of that. That's a very close approximation to what you were talking about, Karin, as purification. And that also takes place within the Jungian psychoanalytic work, of course. It's fundamental. So I think we can now speak about, I would like to ask you a question, Karin. What role does music play in Sufism? It plays no role whatsoever in Jungian work, except there are music therapists. There are a few Jungian psychoanalysts who use music as a auxiliary of their work, but it isn't at all fundamental to, I don't think Jung writes about music touches on it occasionally, but it wasn't really much a part of his life, whereas with Inayat Khan, it was so central. And has it been central for you in your work as a method for moving toward self-realization, Karin?
In the sense that Inayat Khan considered music a sort of mirror of cosmos. It had the rhythm, the tunes, the tonalities. His music was an expression of divine love. And for him, it also represented a bridge to ecstasy, some altered state of consciousness, for sure. Mm-hmm. Have I had that personally? Not so much. I haven't been, for instance, at huge concerts when I was younger or anything like that, where you are carried in by the group in a sort of trance or something. I just didn't have an appetite for that. And I do listen to music, of course, as much as I can take it in, because music is also vibration, and it has to vibrate with you. If it doesn't, it's very uncomfortable, I find. It's also very invasive, because hearing is the sense that we cannot really do away with, if we have hearing, that is. So I'm quite cautious what music I listen to, because I know it will change my vibration. And
Jung once said that people who go to the opera and listen to Wagner, for instance, don't know what they're getting into.
Exactly.
They don't know what this music is going to do to them. You know,
No,
it can
I can relate to that.
Really affect the vibrations, for sure. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's also very long.
Yes. Yeah. Hours and hours.
Hours and hours. Yes. It's no doubt that it affects you very much, for sure.
Yes. I was just wondering if that's a part of purification.
Music, yes, certainly, of course. It's a purification as well as exaltation.
Yes.
So you can truly forget yourself in trance, music-induced trance, for sure. And that's that's the purpose in self-realization. Forget yourself, free yourself, free yourself from your limited self, and embrace your higher self. And music is certainly a pathway for that, and for many people it is. I know many musicians who really, I can see it in their eyes when they start playing. They are somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. It was said about one of the great conductors. What was his name? The German conductor. Can't think of his name right now, but he was a very ordinary human being, they said, when you were in a social setting with him. But when he got on stage with that baton in his hand, he became a different person. He entered into the music. He became the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think many musicians have that experience. I watch the piano concerts. You can watch them now on YouTube and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And when they play, for instance, Beethoven's late piano sonatas, they're transformed. They're gone. They're in another world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
fascinating. I don't use it so much in Sufi practices that I offer within my Sufi work, other than when it comes to the sikr, which is remembrance of God, and the purpose is to open the heart to the soul which resides in the heart, and then it's repetitive music accompanied by certain movements, and if you do that many times in your life, it does have a profound effect, both the music and the movement and the concentration on the divine. That tripartite foundation for renunciation is music induced, partly.
So renunciation, that's a word that you write about in your book, that term. Can you say a few words about renunciation? That's, of course, a part of every spiritual tradition. You have to renounce something, renounce the world, renounce certain parts of the self in order to develop other parts and so on. In Sufism, what is renunciation?
It goes also in stages, of course. You first give up animal parts of yourself. Well, that's a long story. But renunciation, in essence, has to do with surrendering to the fact that you are a vessel created to serve the divine within you. So where the body becomes a temple for the soul.
You see, this is where I think Jungian psychology and Sufism, or the spiritual traditions, have a difference. It's a subtle difference, and sometimes it's closer, sometimes it's further apart. But renunciation in the Jungian context, I would say, has to do with the ego turning itself over to the self.
Yes, but that's the same.
Yeah, but the self in Jung is not the same as a kind of divine love. It is, it's more of a mixture of opposites, because it's also dangerous to turn yourself over to the self. Jung is very cautious on that point because he has this view that the self is not all love.
Yes, many people. No, we talked about that in a previous dialogue, Counterpoint session, that to enter there, you really have to build a strong ego first. And I must say, Jungians are better at building that strong ego than many Sufis who want to immediately have spiritual illumination, kind of skip the ego like that, and then no, I want that. But that's not healthy.
Right. So that's the psychologist side of you speaking now.
Yes. Yeah. And I had a question about it when you talked about analysis and the relationship component of analysis. I had a question there, which is that Inayat Khan, when it comes to purification and mental purification particularly, he wants to suggest that fear, anger, negative emotions that do not belong to the piece that is your original state, that you should just do away with them. How do you see that? I didn't dare to bring it up because I thought that's really controversial for an analyst to just skip it.
Yeah, no. We don't skip it, we go into it.
Exactly.
We try to work with it. For instance, you feel anxious. Can you give me an image? Can you work with it in active imagination? So you can kind of reduce the anxiety or the aggression or by working with it, not by just pushing it away.
No.
So working with it rather than renouncing it, I would say, is the path we would take.
Yes, exactly.
And Jung, there's a passage in the Red Book where the spirits of the dead are so unhappy, and Jung meets with them in a kitchen somewhere or in a library, and they say, "What's the matter? We're so unhappy. We don't know what to do, where to go. What's the problem with us? You're a psychologist. What's the matter with us?" And Jung says, finally, he says, "You didn't live the animal enough." These were Anabaptist souls.
Oh, okay.
So they were the great renouncers, renounce the body, sexuality and all the appetites, all the instincts, and live a purely spiritual life. So the problem, as Jung, the psychologist, announces in that moment, is you didn't live the animal enough. So you don't exclude the animal in individuation.
No.
And that creates a lot of problems. I mean, individuation is I would say, a rough course. It is a path of suffering because you're trying to include all the parts of the self, which instincts are a part of, and all the emotions, all the feelings, but by working with them in a way that they don't exclude the rest of the other. Today we have the Epstein files, and these guys lived the animal fully. That's all they were interested in, apparently, from the reports we get. But what did they exclude? I don't hear anything about a spiritual life coming out of that.
Prayers or retreats.
No,
No, and that's interesting because Inayat Khan did not exclude desire. He really wanted to live in the world, and also talked about his Sufism as the path to really incarnate, live that spirit in the world, also through your desires. So have your desires all the way, as long as they don't have you.
Yes, exactly. As long as they don't have you. Now, he married very controversially a young American woman, and they had 4 children in quick succession. I think in 5 years they had 4 children or something. So he was living a sexual life for sure.
Yes, must have.
So yeah, he didn't deny the body in that sense, for sure.
No, and there is a whole volume in his collected works, the Sufi message, called Rasa Shastra, which is, to this end, a description of mythological, partly, of course, but it is still a way of speaking about it.
Yes. So I think purification has to be understood in a very particular way. In the Christian tradition, purification, the baptism, putting on the white robe, putting away the old man in favor of the new, and so on. It has the connotation of splitting. Now I'm just going to live the spiritual life. This is the new person I am. That old person is finished and past.
It's so purified.
Yeah, so purified. I'm purified now, like the sheep, the lamb. And that's such an illusion because it's not true, psychologically speaking. You have to do something else with that old person. So purification, in your sense, not that.
No, it is more a method of taking away everything that doesn't belong to you, but that does not include desire, or does not include the senses. Much of spiritual awakening in Inayat Khan's teachings go through the senses. Not only what you hear, like music, but also the beauty you see, the fragrance of a perfume. Well, I can relate to that. If someone comes in with the wrong perfume,
you react. Yes. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. It's very aggressive.
I find it very invasive. Yes.
Yeah. Somebody has written about that. She put together a book about smell in analysis. She's a Jungian analyst, and the patients come with certain odors attached to their bodies, and some of them are very off-putting, to the analyst. So she took that as shadow enactments,
passive aggression.
Exactly. So, I think the methods we use. What about dreams in Sufism? Did Inayat Khan do anything at all with dreams, or what did he?
Not to the extent that Jung did, no. But imagination, for sure. And as we all know, Henri Corbin's creative imagination inspired or in the light of Ibn Arabi, who, by the way, who Inayat Khan's teacher. Inayat Khan's teacher was an Ibn Arabi scholar of quite some stature. So Inayat Khan is also inspired indirectly by that line, but imagination, and in the sense of creative imagination, as described by Ibn Arabi, Henri Corbin, etc., is not the same as active imagination. There is a critical difference. And we have
Okay,
talked about it once before, but it's worth mentioning in this context, because active imagination is a dialogue with the dream symbol or something,
right.
object. But creative imagination goes differently. You have that dream symbol or object, and you don't dialogue with it. No, to understand it, you unite with it. You enter into whatever that object is to see how it is to be like that. No dialogue.
That's very different. Yeah.
Fundamentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
what is the difference in the outcome then? What the result?
well, the first stage you described in our previous session about differentiation. I am in the world, but not. I am also an individual. I also have my distinct personality, individuality, subjectivity, and learning to make that differentiation, distinction, is abolished when you go into what we also talked about last time, full unity with the universe.
Yeah, Jung.
Mysterium conjunctionis.
In active imagination, Jung. You can see how he works in the Red Book. Toshio Kawai, who translated the Red Book into Japanese, and is the son of Hayo Kawai, the founder of Jungian psychology in Japan. He said the surprising thing about the Red Book was how present Jung's ego was throughout.
Yes.
Jung is in dialogue with all the figures. He doesn't become one with the figures, except in one exceptional case. He does identify with the crucified Christ for a moment, and then he runs away. He doesn't want more of that. But that's the only moment of identification with what he's seeing in front of him.
That's
Otherwise,
a very powerful scene, the sort of climax where the snake is still and
snake winds around him.
Yes, and Salome sees the blind girl. I can see, what's happening.
Yes. It's a high moment in his experience. But other than that, it's all dialogue, and he maintains his position over against Philemon and Isdubar and the other characters. So that the maintenance of the ego. When he does not, again, another time he does not, but after the Red Book period, is when he has those visions of the Hieros Gamos, the sacred weddings, conjunctio, as he was recovering from his heart attack in the hospital in 1944. And he has these visions of couples coming together. And he just sees them. He doesn't dialogue with them. And then he asks himself, who am I in this? And he says, I am all of them. That is me. That's me. So there's a kind of identification with what he's looking at there. But otherwise, this keeping the self-object duality throughout. He's not a non-dualism person. And that's a difference from a lot of the Eastern traditions where they speak about non-duality and oneness. Except in this Unus Mundus, at the very end of Mysterium Conjunctionis, maybe 10 pages, he talks about this stage of uniting with the Unus Mundus. And you could take that to be a late realization in his life that he'd resisted for his own neurotic reasons or something.
Well, when you say, I am all of them, that sounds true to me. And that comes from my spiritual training, Sufi training. where when you come to the full lived experience of unity of being, then we are all of everything.
Yes. And I think that's probably what Inayat Khan was doing with music, because in that experience of the music, you do, as you say, the ego self dissolves into a kind of oneness with the music and the vibrations. This was the power of the Grateful Dead, in the United States in the 70s and 80s. My son got very involved in that, and he would go to these concerts. And for him, it was mystical experience of union with the music and the people around, and drugs was a part of it, and
Of course.
all of that. And that was, I didn't agree with what he was doing. I thought he was, getting off the track of his individuation process, but he got back on later, thank goodness. But there is a temptation. I think it's called bypass, isn't it? You become hyper spiritual and you bypass the ordinary parts of development and what we call the individuation, lifespan individuation, the various stages.
Yeah, very true.
Bypass. Well, now we have been introduced to the methods of each of these practices, discuss those a bit. In the next conversation, we will address the question, who or what guides the process? Who or what guides the process of self-realization or individuation? It's an important question. We hope you join us. And again, we will try to make it an exciting counterpoint duet.
Thank you again, Murray. Thank you.